I've been a victim of sexism in football, so I started a campaign to get more women involved in the sport. Hi, I'm Caz, I'm 28, I'm from Bristol, and I'm a junior editor and the founder of Her Game 2. So Her Game 2 is an anti-sexism initiative that we founded in May 2021. It is a campaign that is tackling sexist abuse and misogyny in the world of sport. We started out in football and now we've branched into other sports. So we've gone into cricket, rugby and now ice hockey. The point of it is to just make people aware of the sexism that goes on in these areas, and we're trying to build an environment that welcomes women into these areas and make them feel safe and secure, and if there's any problems, people will take it seriously. So we're going to have a zero tolerance of any discrimination towards women that just want to enjoy the sport. So over time it's been casual sexism, or sexism you sort of notice as a woman in football but not really doing much about it because you just accepted it as a norm. And I will admit that I did do that. I accepted it as that's how it is, that's what you get for being a woman in this male dominated area. So there were loads of incidents sort of growing up into the world of football. So there were some that were minor and some were very, you could tell people were very oblivious, like they were surprised that you knew about football, or they question you on your knowledge and say, you know, like name me the starting 11 or the offside rule if you really know what you're talking about, because they aren't used to seeing a woman in the world of football. But there were other more serious cases, say like sexual assault or people grabbing me when I'm walking through the pub before the game. And these sort of things I've always been aware of, but never really thought that anything could be done about it. And there are many campaigns in football now, Kick It Out, for example, who tackle racism, have been going for 25 years, and they do such an amazing job, and they've managed to make a real change in the world of football compared to what it was like all those years ago. So I look at campaigns like that, and Stonewall with their Rainbow Laces one, and I sort of thought, why don't we do something for sexism in football?
Your support allows us to keep creating these amazing videos, so please like and subscribe if you enjoy our content.
The real light bulb moment that I had was in lockdown, and I found that because people weren't going to games and everyone was on social media, the sexism towards women talking about football on social media just got 10 times worse. And I couldn't go a day without scrolling my timeline without seeing someone being sexist towards a woman because they disagreed with her opinion or because she was engaging in classic football banter. And unfortunately, I was a victim of that myself. It was such, when I look back on it, it was such a small incident because all I did was just laugh at a football club's result. I just laughed at the scoreline because they were getting hammered, and that's something I've always done. That's something that everyone does in football. If you don't like the club, you sort of poke a bit of fun at their result when they lose. I tweeted that out and put my phone away because I didn't even think it was going to be anything as bad as it was. Came back to my phone an hour or so late, and the quote tweets on Twitter were just sexism, misogyny, attacking me, and it was nothing about football anymore. It was about me being a woman. It was about my gender. It was about my body image. They were attacking things like my weight, my breasts, and just everything that they would never say to a man. And trust me, there were plenty of men saying the same thing that I did. And I saw their tweets and there was nothing of the sort towards them, but the real hatred towards me for something that was so minor. Yeah, it was really bad. And then I had to come off social media because I couldn't face reading that stuff about me. I locked my account down, I came off it, and then when I came back on it, I had tons of messages of support, and that's what lifted me back up again. And what I found with some of these messages were women reaching out saying, I know how you feel, I had the same thing, why is nothing being done about this? And that's what made me start thinking, okay, can we do something about this? So then that's when I started thinking about a campaign, and then a few months later, Her Game 2 started. It was crazy. Like it was, my phone was burning. I had to turn my notifications off because it was just, I posted it at 10 o'clock on FA Cup final day. Just a simple video with the hashtag Her Game 2. And the video involved us all holding up incidents of sexism that we'd personally received. I think I looked back 2 minutes later and it was already on 100 retweets and all these different comments. And yeah, it was overwhelmingly positive, which was amazing. And it was really shocking for us because we had a long-term plan with this, and we thought, okay, we might not get much traction in the launch, but if we don't, we just carry on and we keep going until people listen. And in my head, I thought I'd have like 5 years before the first club came forward and said they'd support or they'd back it. But within the same day that we launched, we probably had about 20 odd clubs come forward and using the hashtag HerGame2 and supporting what we're doing. And then the EFL came forward and supported us publicly. And I was like, oh my God, like this is really going to be something, which was amazing. Yeah, I remember looking back on the next day after what was a really crazy day of notifications, press calls, BBC, ITV, Channel 5, all wanted interviews and stuff. And we'd reached 1 million views in 24 hours after the first launch. So it was, yeah, a crazy response. And it was amazing to see so many women coming forward and saying, oh my God, about time. Or I've had these comments. I'm so glad someone's doing something about it. A lot of people were mistaking us for like an actual organisation. They thought we were part of the FA or something. And it was like, no, we're just football fans that are making a stand. So it was, yeah, an amazingly overwhelming reaction. But since then, it's just been insane, back to back. So we're on women's shirts, but any football shirts where we're on is if it's been donated to us, because we're still voluntary. We don't have any paid staff. We don't have any money or funding at this stage. Hopefully in the future we will, but it's something we can't quite afford at this stage. But it would be a dream to have a men's football club spreading the message of HerGame2 and championing equality in the game, which would be amazing for us. We're now on 69 of 92 football clubs in terms of an official partnership. Our biggest one is Liverpool, which is amazing. And when that happened, it was like, we're really actually like reaching not just the UK, but Liverpool are like a global club, you know, they're supported worldwide. So that was really a fantastic achievement. And all of these clubs that support us now have to pledge into taking action against sexism, making their stadiums a more welcoming environment for women and girls. So yeah, it's really amazing to have the support, and hopefully in this next season we can make it the full 92. There's loads of avenues we sort of want to go down, but I guess in the future what I want to see is women feeling safe and secure in football stadiums. We would see a change in attitudes. So we'll see like the classic chants that say like women get at grounds, or female physios or referees, things like get your tits out for the lads sort of chants that are just horrendous for women to hear. That will be a thing of the past, hopefully. And in terms of percentages of season ticket holders, at the moment, we don't have a club that's higher than 18% of female season ticket holders. So if we could see an increase in that, and I don't ever expect it to sort of level out completely, but if we can get that percentage increasing, then we see that as a measure of success. And women's football as well, obviously the Lionesses have done such a good job in terms of promoting women's football, and people are starting to get interested in it now. They sold 89,000 at Wembley, which is insane. So we want to see women's football more respected, and what we're working hard to do with our partner clubs is give the women's teams that are affiliated with those clubs the opportunity to play at the main stadium. Because at the moment they're playing at separate stadiums, people don't really know much information about it. So we're trying to sort of merge it all together so that it's football as a whole for both men and women, and women are feeling like they are respected equally to men. So that's sort of what we see in the future, is basically a more inclusive environment and a bit more of a balance. So I got into football when I was about 12 years old, and funnily enough I actually hated it before then, which is insane. I just would always ask my dad to turn off the commentary because I wanted to listen to music instead. And I think, to be honest, it was probably unavoidable for me because my whole family are into football. But my mum and dad and brothers are split. So my dad and brothers support Bristol City. My mum supports Bristol Rovers. So I had the choice of supporting either or Bristol club growing up. My dad tried to take me to a football match, a Bristol City match, when I was about 4. And I think they lost and I just hated it. And I wanted to go home and I was screaming and things like that. So that was his mistake. And then it was a few years down the line and I was willing to give it another go. So I asked my mum if she could take me to Bristol Rovers because I heard her and Uncle Steve talk about it quite a lot, and I was like, oh, I really want to see what this is all about. So she took me to the JPT final in Cardiff. So she chose a really good game to sort of get me sucked in, and we went there on the train. As soon as I got off the train, it was like a sea of blue and white. The atmosphere was amazing. Everyone was in good spirits. The sun was out. I bought myself a little flag, and even though they didn't win, it was actually such a memorable day for me. And from then on, I was hooked and obsessed, and I wanted to go back. I started getting obsessed of like looking into the players and who plays where and trying to like get my knowledge up to speed. Yeah, and I remember going into school with my Rovers scarf around my neck that my mum bought me, and even in school I look back and I think boys would look at you a bit differently because you're a girl, and it was a bit weird for a girl to watch football or support a team. And not just boys, like girls as well would look at you as if you're a tomboy or not a girly girl because you're into football, but actually like I always considered myself to be both. So yeah, it's really interesting growing up to see sort of how I got into it and became sort of hooked. And then when I went to my first ever Bristol Rovers home match, it just felt like home to me. And I used to go with my mum, and we've had amazing memories watching them. And yeah, it's been about 15 years now, season ticket holder every year, and made some amazing friends. Some of my best friends are people I've met through Rovers. My boyfriend that I'm with now, I met through Rovers. And it's amazing how football can sort of change your life that way and sort of decide the course of what like direction that your life goes. And yeah, I just want every woman and girl growing up into this world to feel like they can find their home in football as well. So I'm really glad that actually now we're starting to see women feeling more comfortable going to games and feeling like it's their place as well. I think you're right about schools though, like it's something that we're starting to see a slow change in now. So it's actually 41% of schools in the UK now allow girls to play football as well. Still not even half though, so we've got to work on that. And at Her Game too, we always get reports through from parents to say, my daughter's been bullied off the playground, she just wants to play football, but the boys have said it's a man's game, you can't, this game's for boys. And that's the attitudes we've sort of got to change. So with Her Game too, if we can get into schools and start educating at a lower level, then hopefully it will take a few years, but we might get there, and we might start seeing that actually everyone looks at football as everyone's game, and there's no need to sort of gatekeep it to a certain gender. It's for everyone to enjoy. We have had horrible reports come through, like a young girl has been punched in the face because boys do get frustrated if the girl does well, because they don't see it as, and they're conditioned to think that it's a boys' game and that girls can't be better than them, or and like at that age as well, there's no physical advantage, you know, it's just all about your sort of skill and just enjoy it, you know, like it's not for boys to say that girls can't get involved. And yeah, we do find there are a lot of boys that do get frustrated with girls playing, and if they manage to skin them or if they score a goal against them, unfortunately they get wound up. And we have had horrible reports of how girls have been treated by boys. So education is key, I think, just to sort of rewire their brains to like look a bit more equally. It's hard to sort of remember my earliest memories, but definitely when I was in school it was very much known to be a boys thing, and my brothers were quite into it, and my dad, I know my mum was into it as well, but because in the household it was quite dominated in the fact you had the 3 Bristol City fans and then my mum, I think maybe I just sort of thought I don't want to really get involved in that. But yeah, no, it's interesting. I think it's not really changed, like we said earlier. It's still that mindset at schools to say it's not for girls to enjoy, or you get those sort of things, or you like football, you must be a lesbian, or yeah, you're a tomboy, like we said earlier, things like that. I could see why women are just like, right, do you know what, I'll just leave it to men to enjoy. And then you still get people now that sort of say, oh, a good way to encourage women to come to football is let them know that they go shopping in the club shop before, and they're serious about this, like, and that's how they think women just enjoy shopping or getting their nails done, and they wouldn't possibly be able to enjoy both and enjoy the football as well. So yeah, I've had it a few times where people sort of say, oh, I bet like no man would find you attractive because you drink pints and go to the football, but on the other hand some men do love that. So you know, yeah, there are certain comments in society and like societal expectations of women and how we should behave and how we should be ladylike and not go to the football, which is unfortunately something that women do take on board, and then they don't just do what they want, and they wouldn't ever be willing to give it a try because they see it as such a masculine environment. And we actually did do a survey recently asking why women don't go, and a lot of the answers were about the abusive chanting, or the fact they see it as a masculine environment, the fact they don't see any other women there, which doesn't mean it means they can't relate to anything, you know, you see it, you could be it sort of thing. So with Her Game too, we try and promote the fact that a lot of women do go to games, and actually they are there. They might be in the minority right now, but they are there, and it is a place that we are building for women to go and enjoy and feel included. So yeah. It's a weird thing with football, and like for years people have felt, I'll go to football and I'm in the safety bubble and I can do and say things that I wouldn't get away with in Tesco, you know, things like that. So they'll go to football and then they just feel like they're in this laddie environment away from the wife, that sort of thing. And then so they can do and say what they want. And unfortunately, people take it too far and think that they can touch women how they want as well. And the amount of times I've walked into the clubhouse at the ground and it's just like men. And you feel like everyone's looking at you, like not necessarily always in a bad way, but in a bit of shock because there's a woman there. It's really quite it's quite interesting actually, because you can't almost blame them in a way, because actually it's quite rare for a woman to be at a game, and thankfully we are starting to see that slight increase. But it starts with making the grounds a more welcoming environment, like we touched on with the chanting and things like that. Chanting's absolutely fine, and a lot of women really enjoy the chanting, but when it becomes abusive or homophobic or sexist, then actually that's enough to put people off and not want to come back. And there's a lot of dads with daughters as well think, oh, I might want to bring my daughter along, and then we'll have a female referee, and some of the comments they hear, they think, actually no, stop that, I'm not going to bring her along, you know. And the toxic atmosphere in the stands towards women doesn't help that. So I think as a whole we need to tackle it in all areas of football, and that starts with the football clubs calling it out, which I'm glad to see them doing now, which is great.